which were thankfully air conditioned.
Did they actually, were you actually in a sim that made you weightless?
Just aside from the scuba diving, no.
I didn't know if you actually had an opportunity to be floating around in a
No.
weightless atmosphere.
Sadly.
Right, they gave you exercises where you were a part of a space mission, and you told me that everybody had a position. How many kids were on your team?
There were 12 kids on my team, 7 girls and 5 guys.
Cool. And what was your position?
Well, for the 1-hour missions, I was Mission Specialist 1 and 2. During those, I would repair a satellite. For Mission Specialist 1, I'd be on a steel arm, which I could control with a device under my hand. I'd move it around and repair the satellite. For Mission Specialist 2, I'd work with the specialist to help repair the satellite. And you'd be hanging suspended from the ceiling via a harness and ropes, and you'd have to get parts of the satellite to put from the docking bay and bring them to the other partner. You'd repair the satellite like that.
What kind of training did they give you before the mission, or did...
The 1-hour missions were the training, basically.
Oh, okay.
And the 6-hour mission was the real thing.
What happened with the 6-hour mission?
Well, for the 6-hour mission, several things happened. I was in mission control, actually, but on the satellite, on the International Space Station, one of the things that happened was they had filters, but they were the wrong size and they ran out, so they needed to come up with some way to fit the wrong shaped filters into the filtering system. And so we in mission control had to come up with a way to fit the filters, and then we had to relay that information on how to fix the filters so they'd fit to the space station before they all suffocated.
Cool.
So
that was the thing that went wrong.
Well, that was one of the
mission?
things that went wrong.
What else went wrong?
Well, during the shuttle, when the shuttle went up, a lot of the people stood up early, and the people who were there, the coordinators who worked there, so, okay, you all stood up too early, your legs are all broken, get on the ground. It was really funny. And they were supposed to give them medicine to make them better and stuff, but it didn't work out that way, and some of them died.
All right. So did this leg breaking thing, did that happen early in the mission?
They were all revived.
Okay.
They had to, one of the times they had to do a dance to revive them. It's kind of funny.
So they didn't have to go through the rest of like 5 hours or something.
Oh, yeah,
they did with broken legs.
They were repaired.
Okay. All right. Can you just tell us, give me a brief rundown of what your day was like? You got up at what, crack of dawn?
6:30, close enough to crack of dawn. If it wasn't, I don't remember. And then we'd have breakfast, and from then until lunch, we'd do do simulators or missions or briefings, which were learning about stuff on our missions, stuff like that. Then we'd have lunch around 12, and then for the rest of the day, we'd do the same lunch around 5:30. Then more briefings, more missions, whatever. It would depend on the day, what we do. Then bed at around 10:30. So they kept us busy.
Did you have any spare time?
Very little.
So you were doing something
Pretty
all
much.
day long.
There were a couple times where we got a chance to talk or just sit around in our room, but not a whole lot.
You mentioned lunch, which gets me into another question. One of the same man who gave the suit also sent Travis $20 for spending money. And I told him, I said, you have $20 to spend, and then the NASA folks sent me an email and said that Travis could have an opportunity to have lunch with an astronaut that was on site while you were there. So he decided to spend his $20 on lunch with the astronaut. How was that?
It was interesting. The astronaut, he actually gave a speech earlier in the week, the day before, with a PowerPoint of all his pictures from his times as an astronaut, which is really cool. He'd talk about it. The lunch was a lot of the same thing, but it was more personal because it was smaller. It was like 50 people instead of a couple hundred. And after the lunch, I talked to him a little bit. I took a picture with him.
One-on-one, you talked to him?
A little bit, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And he was also the same astronaut who did our graduation ceremony the next day. So it's pretty cool.
You told me, is it Gibson? His
Yes,
name
it was
Epson. That must be really cool. We just met an astronaut. My husband and I went to a conference this weekend and met Fred Hayes, who was one of the original Apollo 13 astronauts. And he found out that our club had sent you to space camp, he did a special autographed picture, especially to Travis, which I thought was kind of cool, and he also gave us one to auction off in our auction with the intent any money made from that picture at the auction will go back into our space camp program, which is, you know, people are giving us money now for this. Tell me when you heard about our space camp scholarship.
I heard about it toward the end of my school year in 8th grade from our school.
That's we had decided we wanted to do this and sent out word to Amherst County schools, and we're just leaving
the middle
school and going into high school when we got this program started, and which was a little over our age group. But your principal called me, your mom called me, all sorts of people called me to tell me how wonderful an opportunity this would be for you because of your interest in science and math and that kind of thing.
Extremely glad that I got to go.
So we decided we had to include you no matter what, because it was not your fault that you were a little older by the time we got this off the ground. One of your teachers, I think, told me about your science project.
Yeah, during middle school science projects, the one I think you're talking about is I had to figure out the best way to protect something from falling. So I used eggs and protected them with packing material, and I tested them to see which one would break and which one, stuff like that. We actually did something very similar at space camp. We were given a set of materials, and we had a budget, like how much materials we could use, and we had to come up with the best way to protect another egg from falling from a 2-story building with also using the amount of materials. So I think our team won that.
You'd already had egg experience.
Yes, I had.
Well, what did you have to do to enter our contest?
I had to write an essay about why I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So
your hands down was better than any that we had gotten. Travis told us about, you know, that he thought that this would help you with your future and your decisions in the future about a career choice. And then at the end he said, "I really want to go." So his essay was, you know, far and away better than anything that we had gotten. Do you remember anything else you said on your essay? I can't remember.
I think you covered it.
Okay. I just thought you were the most honest, because, you know, a lot of kids could have rattled on about all this intellectual stuff, but you just said, "I want to go," and that's great. I know your mom was excited when she found out that you had won the contest. How did?
Well, when I sent away the essay, it was kind of like entering a lottery. You don't expect to win, but it's kind of like the lottery. Like, we won? Awesome! It was really great. I was quite excited. Well, I almost thought she was joking for a minute, but then it was for real.
Well, we feel like we couldn't have gotten a better person to go. We took care of all of the paperwork and dealing with space camp, but you did have to do something. Did you have to have a?
Yeah, I had to have a physical exam for the scuba diving because that's pretty physical.
Is that all you had to do?
I think so. I had to fill out some forms online, but other than that.
Are you interested in our country's space program?
I'm both interested in where it's going to go and also opportunities there, because it's going to be a growing program, and I think I could do a lot of good there. Also want to see if we're going to go to Mars or not. Should.
They're talking about pushing it back.
Yeah, I was afraid of that. I think we probably are going to go to Mars eventually, but whether we do it by the time or not, we'll see. But yes, I'm watching that very eagerly.
What if I ask you this question I'm about to ask you, and said, "Travis, what did you learn? You know, what was the big learned about it from going on from this experience?"
There were so many things. A lot of the experience was learning. I'm not really sure. I can't really pin down one specific thing, but I learned a lot about the history of our program. I learned how the shuttle operates, how the International Space Station operates. One thing I found interesting was the aborts that you could do if the shuttle was going wrong. If you if something goes wrong within 4 minutes, you do this, and that was the most thing goes wrong within 12 minutes. You circle over to the other side of the Atlantic. I was like, wow, okay. So I found that pretty interesting.
That is